Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start the French Quarter Economic Development District meeting.
Roll call. Councilmember Willard. Here. Councilmember Moreau. Councilmember McCarron. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember King. Here. Councilmember Green.
Here.
Councilmember Hughes.
Here.
We have 6 members who have a quorum. 7 members. French Quarter Economic Development District. Item 1, quarterly budget and expenditure reports of the French Quarter EDD Trust Fund. Michelle Corso, Executive Director of the French Quarter Management District. Christine Bando, Board Chairperson of French Quarter Management District Board of Commissioners. A report on the fiscal operation administration of the French Quarter Economic Development District Trust Fund. Item 2, 2026 FQMD Budget Amendment Presentation, New Orleans Police Department 8th District Drone Program. Michelle Corso, Executive Director of French Quarter Management District. Christine Bando, President of French Quarter Management District Board of Commissioners, and FQEDD 2026. A presentation on the 2026 FQMD Budget Amendment, request to appropriate $250,000 for the purpose of implementing the New Orleans Police Department 8th District Drone Program within the FQEDD boundaries. Item 3, French Quarter Economic Development District FQEDD Motion M 2026-01 by District Member King. Consideration of a motion to approve an amendment to the 2026 FQEDD operating budget to appropriate $250,000 for the purpose of implementing the New Orleans Police Department 8th District Drone Program within the French Quarter boundaries. Councilmember King.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ms. Corso, the floor is yours.
Thank you for being here, everyone. My name is Michelle Corso. French Quarter Economic Development is our topic for today, and this is our 2026 first quarter report. The French Quarter Economic Development District has been in existence for 10 years as a partnership between the City of New Orleans, French Quarter Management District, and the quarter-for-the-quarter sales tax funds that have been collected in the French Quarter area. This is our area map that has the boundaries from Rampart to the river, canal to Esplanade. We're doing well thus far in our trust fund expenses this year. While we are working through our reporting on the expenses side, we are ahead of schedule a little bit on the remittances. So we've got more money coming in that we had actually budgeted for, which is positive for the things that we can spend money on in the quarter. In terms of our KPIs or our performances, we are looking right now at our supplemental police patrol programs. We look at the officers trained, the app response times, the number of citizen and business checks, in addition to a new KPI, which is quality of life. All of these are improvements over last year, which we always appreciate. Additionally, we dig a little further into those KPIs, into the number of apprehensions, summons, traffic citations, vehicles available for patrol, and also our parking tickets written in the quarter. These are all things that we monitor in our monthly meetings, our security and enforcement meetings, and then subsequently report to our agreement monitors every month with the city. Additionally, we've got our Covenant House reporting. We're actually looking to expand what we report on in terms of the KPIs and have worked with Covenant House this year to expand that. So next quarter's report will have a lot more detail than what we currently track. But again, year over year, we are looking to see improvements. And these reports are usually very short and sweet, but there are usually a couple questions from council members on our first quarter.
Any questions on this from the presentation about the first quarter? I have a quick question. Overall, compared to last quarter, where is the French Quarter? Where does it stand? Does it stand in your eyes?
Much better. So these funds, again, are specifically designated to supplemental patrols and public safety initiatives. And so in those regards, all of those areas, we've seen improvement to the point that we are now digging into those KPIs to say, okay, how do we measure ourselves even tougher than we did last year for that continued improvement? So yes, all good reports all around in all categories.
And I'll ask the captain, before, I know you got another presentation. We want to get your assessment, being the captain of the 8th district for some time. How are we looking?
We're looking really well. The 8th district would not be able to properly operate without the assistance of the French Quarter Management District and the Supplemental Police Program.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for that. Does that complete item 1 for you, Ms. Corso? Okay.
It does.
All right. We'll move on to item number 2.
Yes. Item number 2 is our FQEDD, or French Quarter Economic Development District Budget Amendment Request, specifically for the French Quarter drone technology. The specific request before council today is, does the city council vote to ratify the existing FQEDD 2026 budget up to the sum of $250,000 for the drone and docking station? This program is already in existence. This is an upgrade to add a docking station with a designated drone specifically for the French Quarter. This enables the faster response time. So right now, the drone launches manually from an officer when they receive that information or that call from captain or a commander to specifically go upstairs to the rooftop of a French Quarter location and launch that drone. This docking station allows that drone to be launched from NOPD headquarters and viewed on that screen. So that dock lives there 365 and improves the timing of the launch from 6 minutes to 2 minutes. Captain assures me that it can get up and running overall, if it's approved today, within 6 months, if not better, and does require, of course, this council's approval of the amendment request. We received a lot of public feedback and questions in our public meetings. The most commonly asked questions were, are the drones used for surveillance? The NOPD policy on drones specifically outlines 13 public safety missions that the drone can be launched for. This information can be accessed specifically in a public-facing dashboard that monitors all of the flight logs with the time, the date, the location, the duration, and you can actually see where that drone went. One of the biggest questions that we were asked is, does facial recognition exist on these drones? The policy specifically states in 2 places that facial recognition is strictly prohibited in the NOPD drone program.
Ms. Carlson, before we got a couple people questioned. I'm respectfully ask that you all finish the presentation because your questions may be answered, and then we can have the councilmen. But I see we're going to recognize when that time comes, Councilmember Harris, then Councilmember Willard. But I'm asking that the presentation is finished first.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
When can the drones be deployed, who can operate the drones, and is there public reporting drones usage? All of these are covered in the existing policy. The rationale for FQMD, again, we know today, there's 900,000 people estimated to be here starting today through Sunday or Monday to enjoy French Quarter Fest. That creates a lot of people, a lot of density in a very small space. The ability to respond quickly and get eyes on a scene with the drone and the pilot that mans that drone with under 2 minutes is impressive. That's part of the rationale why FQMD unanimously voted yes for this program or for this budget request. Again, this is an existing time program. The biggest factor in this was that one operator can be utilized instead of hiring more NOPD staff. We don't have that position right now. FQMD currently has supplemental patrols. This allows us to have a 5% budget increase, but an 80% increase in the actual response time. That math works really well. Additionally, we looked at data provided to us by other cities. What was working well in other cities like San Francisco, Colorado, and Washington? What actually worked? What data was supporting this concept, and does it actually work? As I mentioned earlier, this is also exactly in line with the purpose of the French Quarter Economic Development District's fund's purpose. In November, voters of the French Quarter approved this with an 86% approval rating. That's our highest thus far. And the funds are specifically for supplemental patrols and public safety initiatives. So we felt that that very cleanly aligns. This is what our current budget is right now, and this is what we're requesting the increase for. And so I'll keep Captain ready for the specific subject matter questions that you may have.
All right, Captain Palumbo, do you want to make a presentation first or just wait for the questions?
So I can give you a real brief overview of what DFR is. So currently, the police department operates a drone program. Within that program, we operate Skydio drones. We originally purchased the X2 model. We had 4 of those. Part of our contract was that we had a refresh within, I believe it was the first 5 years of purchase. Within that period, the X10 came out. So free of charge, we were sent 4 additional drones, 4 additional X10 drones, basically doubling our fleet of drones. What we are looking to do with DFR is to take a technology that we have been using for years within the city and make it more efficient and to give us better oversight of not only the district, but events like today.
All right. So first we'll have questions from Councilmember Harris, followed by Councilmember Willard.
Thank you. And Captain Palumbo, you said we have 8 drones currently in the French Quarter?
No, ma'am. The city of New Orleans owns 9 total drones. 8 are part of the citywide fleet. 1 was purchased specifically for the 8th district. But of those 8 that are available to the city, 4 are the older, outdated model, which many times are used for training purposes only.
So currently you have 1 drone operating in the French Quarter.
We have 1 drone available in the French Quarter.
Is it operating currently?
So it is operated at times, because the difference between what we're proposing in DFR, so in DFR you have a drone on a rooftop in a dock with an officer sitting at a desk that's able to launch it. The current method is it takes 2 operators to go up on a roof and launch the drone from there. So do we have it operational 24/7? No, ma'am, but do we have it available to do specific flights? Yes.
So what is the difference? So this new technology would allow the drone to operate 24/7 or no?
It's available 24/7. So yes, the only difference is, so right now, the drone's kept in a locked office inside the 8th District Station. If I want a drone deployed, I have to get my officer who has his FAA 107 license to go out. Him and another officer have to go up, launch that drone. The new technology allows me to say, while you're sitting at the desk, launch the drone.
Got it. Okay. And you mentioned a dashboard to log all this information. Do we currently have a dashboard? And where is it?
So that's one thing that is really, it brings another level of transparency with the DFR program, is this dashboard, to where you will be able to go on and see every flight that was done from this drone. And not only every flight, the exact time, the reason for the flight, and if you look on the screen, you actually get the flight path. So you won't get the actual video that was captured, but you get every other metadata from that is publicly available.
Okay. So I'm looking at your unmanned aircraft systems, drone, NOPD, Department of Operations Manual, Chapter 43.5. And if you go to number 16, it says, all flights shall be documented by the end of the operating member's tour of duty on a form or database designed for that purpose, referred to as a flight log, and all flight times shall be accurately recorded. Copies of each flight log shall be provided or made available for review. The flight log shall include the following information. Do you currently maintain that flight log for the 1 drone that you have?
Yes, we do. At this time, it's a written form where the officer has to go in and fill it all out. So what we'll do with the dashboard is every question that we have on that currently approved form will be made part of, so when the flight ends, it will come up and then the officer can fill out that information. And as opposed to paper documents, it's logged on the website.
So if I wanted to get the flight logs for any drone deployment that has happened prior to now, that's available?
Yes, ma'am.
So one of my
Information, not the actual,
drone footage.
not the actual flight path. That's not something that's documented on the flight log.
Got it. The French Quarter is made up of a lot of private courtyards, et cetera. How do you avoid capturing private property when you deploy this drone
So
currently?
our policy already stipulates that, just like with any other technology, if we're going to use it to observe and search, do anything like that on private property, we're already required to get a search warrant. The way the drone operates is when it's flying, the camera is facing forward, right? So you're flying to where you want to go. Will you see from a 200-300 vantage point over buildings? Yes,
And into private courtyards, into private residences?
correct. But the great thing about our drone program is that it's recording, so that if, for instance, you were to say, I feel like NOPD was over my courtyard seeing things they shouldn't have seen, we have the footage to show whether that officer was actually doing something he wasn't supposed to do.
Okay, so I would, if I lived in the French Quarter, and I don't, and I see a drone going over my private courtyard, I would then have to reach out to you and say, I saw a drone over my private courtyard. Do you have footage of my courtyard and my backyard barbecue?
So I don't have a flight to show you, but when that drone's going to where it's trying to get to, it's typically traveling anywhere from 35 to 45 miles an hour. So you're not seeing a perfectly clear still shot of where you're going. But it's the exact technology that we've been using on a regular basis.
Right, which is problematic to me. This money, you said was for supplemental patrols. Could we add additional officers with this money, with this $250,000?
We spend over $3 million annually from these funds on the supplemental officers, on the supplemental patrol officers, in addition to public safety. So we consider this technology under the public safety bucket as opposed to the patrols. But every year, we evaluate how many additional French Quarter patrol officers are in our budget. And so again, that's over $3 million currently.
So my question to you is, could this money be better used for an additional officer or additional funding of the mobile crisis intervention unit or some other means to stop crime other than drone technology?
Yes, every year we submit that budget with a variety of different types of public safety and French Quarter patrols. Every year that budget comes before this council and certainly receives input from everyone here. Yes,
Okay,
indeed.
thank you.
Councilmember Willard.
Thank you, Councilmember King. Thank you, Ms. Corso, for the presentation, and thank you, Captain Palumbo. We know there's policies and procedures in place for drone usage for NOPD. I believe there are some gaps and have some concerns about accountability. I wanted to know, how long has NOPD actually been using drone technology?
So we have been using the technology,
2024, I believe.
yes, I believe it was 2024 when we began.
Okay. One of the concerns that we heard from some residents is about noise levels. How loud are these drones, and is that going to be a disruption to any neighborhoods?
So I can say this, in a normal neighborhood, because of the flight that we fly at, the height that we fly at, you wouldn't hear it. In the French Quarter, there's no way that the ambiance noise on the ground is not going to exceed the noise of a drone flying roughly 200 feet overhead.
Okay, so you're talking about the height now. That was my next question. Are there height restrictions, how high it can go, how low it can go?
So our policy and FAA regulations cap us out at 400 feet. But there is no regulation as far as low. Standard operating procedure is above buildings.
So they can go down to ground level?
They can.
anything in the NOPD policy that would prohibit a drone operator from flying it to ground level and getting in somebody's face, or, because I know they have spotlight technology as well.
So I don't believe there's anything that dictates a floor. I just don't ever see a use case for that.
So what's like the standard height that NOPD typically flies the drones?
So again, depending on the area, but I can tell you that
In the
the
quarter.
typical flights in the quarter, we're normally around that 185 to 200.
Okay. Councilmember Harris was talking about flying over private property. That was a question I had as well. I would assume the drone does not take like a street map path, right? It flies the most efficient route. Is there anything that prohibits the drone from being able to fly over? And I know it's always recording and getting this video content of private backyards and courtyards.
So, I'm sorry, can you clarify that question a little bit?
When the drone is in flight and it's going to its destination, is there anything in policy or, SOP that tells it to avoid flying over like private courtyards or backyards?
No, so it does typically take a bird, as a crow flies.
So it basically will
As you would
take the
say.
most efficient path
Correct.
to get to the, okay. Moving forward, I know that you said this drone does not have the facial recognition technology, but I wanted to better understand, it will have the camera and the spotlight and the parachute and a speaker, right? So
You can have up to 2 of those at any time.
Oh, you
So
can
with
pick-
DFR, we will always have a parachute on it.
Okay.
Right, so depending on the needs, if there were a need for a spotlight, we would put the spotlight. If there were the need for the speaker, we would put the speaker.
Okay. Moving forward, if something happened and NOPD was able to utilize facial recognition technology, is that a software upgrade or is that a switch that has to be turned on for the drone to be able to use that technology?
So the Skydio drone does not offer.
So that's what I wanted
That
to know.
feature.
Okay, so it's that model that you're getting does not have that ability.
Nor does any model that I'm aware of that company makes.
Okay, all right. Next question I had, how does the public know if a drone deviates from NOPD policy on drones?
That's a difficult one.
Is there like an internal review, a periodic?
So yes, the flight logs are reviewed by the approving supervisor, who in most cases would be me in the French Quarter. But other than that,
Are there any measures in place to make sure that we're holding the drone operators accountable? Because when you're talking about the flight path of the drone, I think my understanding is that the drone is looking straight, not necessarily down,
until it gets to,
until it gets closer to its destination.
Correct.
And once it starts to go down, it has that footage. I mean, there have been reports of drone operators doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make sure that the policy is being followed.
so, and I do fully believe that because our drone records from the time of launch to the time of returning, right, in any case, I think that is a very big way that we are able to hold our pilots accountable, because if there is that suspicion that they're doing something, they literally recorded the evidence themselves.
All right. My last question refers to the drone policy. On pages 8 and 9, it says that PSAB shall review all flight documentation quarterly and that the data from the review will be made available publicly. Where's that data available right now?
So right now, the way that all goes through, it's all paper documents. So it's handwritten or typed in documents that get filed, signed off on. So if I'm the approving captain currently that approves the use of a drone, then that flight log comes to me to approve that it's fully completed. And then a copy of that is sent to the PSAB.
So where could the public, if they wanted to review the data, go to access it?
So currently, I would imagine it would take a public records request to get those documents. With our proposal, they would go to the website and be able to see that.
Okay. And then on page 9, it says that an annual report will be published and shared with the community. And I wanted to know where the annual report was available and how are we sharing it with the community?
Again, everything that I know of is paper documented right now, with the exception of if you go to this program. But I will check with PSAB to see. I can get an answer on that. I don't have that answer for you today.
Well, that one's important because it seems like this policy is saying that PSAB has to file and publish this annual report and that it has to be shared with the community. I mean, that's shells, it's not maize. So that's very important. That's very concerning as well.
Councilman, maybe I can answer that for you. PSAB does publish annual reports. When we were in the consent decree, we had that as a mandatory thing. That is still something they will be doing. With their reduced manpower, obviously, we're kind of behind on some things. However, that is not something that it'd be difficult to put into that annual report from PSAB.
Well, if you started using the drones in 2024 and the consent decree went away last year, I don't understand why there's no annual report right now, especially when we're trying to expand, the use of drones.
There may be something in the annual report from last year. I wouldn't be able to tell you that accurately right now, but we can certainly find that out. However, as we are in April, that next one for 26 will not be coming out immediately.
For 20, I know, I'm asking about a 24 report.
So for 24, 25, that's something I would have to get back to you on. I do just want to point out, as the 8th District Commander, I'm trying to implement this program in the 8th District. I don't oversee everything currently as far as drones are related.
No, and I get.
That's why I say I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, and I get that, Captain Palumbo, but I believe our chief has made statements about wanting to kind of roll out drone technology throughout the rest of the city as well. So, I think, in this instance, this is directly applicable to the 8th District, but also I think it's fair to kind of talk about it holistically as it impacts the entire city of New Orleans. So thank you for answering my questions.
And I do, again, I know I pointed out a lot, but I do want to point out the level of transparency this brings forward. These don't become questions because it's all available to the public
Thank
online.
you, Captain.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarron, recognized.
Thank you. I just have a few follow-up questions, specifically on, there's just a lot of inconsistencies between the way that this has been presented to us and your current policies for drones, as both Councilmember Harris and Willard talked about the transparency piece, but also you say that there's not facial recognition technology in here. However, in your policy, it says a still image of a suspect could be extracted from the footage and submitted for facial recognition analysis. So I guess, if we're doing first responder, I think there needs to be sort of a separate policy for each individual use of these drones to make this make sense.
So let me clarify. So the drone itself does not do any type of facial recognition. We have a facial recognition policy. All footage from these drones is the same exact as every officer's body-worn camera or every RTCC camera that we have throughout the French Quarter. The footage all goes to the same location. If there were an instance and I wish I could show you the drone flights, but if there were an instance, it would follow the same exact policy that we use for BWC, that we use for RTCC footage.
Okay. Also, for first responder, it says that, you know, you all, currently the policy, the way you use it is that you're supposed to announce on social media and however, you know, other emergency alert systems. How is that going to work here if it's supposed to be first responder, and do you have the time to announce it to the public that you're going to be using these drones? And if it's supposed to, you know, put down on response time? How are you going to do that if it's supposed to be deployed quickly without really announcing it to the public? Do you have time?
So as far as DFR would go, we would obviously make a public campaign to let people know that the program exists, and then the daily flight logs are available on a public dashboard.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, to me, there's just a lot of things with your current policies versus how you would like to use this drone that don't match up, and this is the problem that I'm struggling with about this program, is that it hasn't been fully assessed by this full council or meaningfully engaged with the public about it, and it's a little concerning.
Any other comments or questions from the dais?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to comment after public comment.
Yes, yes, sir. All right, let me make one housekeeping note. We have a council member who has to leave at 1 o'clock, and there's also another scheduled meeting at 1 o'clock. So we're gonna have a few more questions from the dais, and I'm going to take 10 minutes of public comment in order to vote at 12:50. So we can make room for the next meeting and make sure that everyone who wishes to vote has the opportunity to vote, and that's going to be in approximately 16 minutes, all right? So my first question is, are any public funds being used for to purchase these drones?
No, sir.
Okay. Are drones already, and some of these may have been asked and answered already, but just clarity is what I'm looking for. Are drones already being used by NOPD in the French Quarter?
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard any concerns from anyone on the dais or public officials about drones currently being used in the French Quarter?
No.
No. All right. Are other agencies outside of NOPD currently using drones in the French Quarter?
Yes.
Do these drones have facial recognition capabilities?
No.
Do any current drones in the French Quarter have facial recognition
No.
capabilities? No. All right. Are these drones, or any current drones being used in the French Quarter, armed with any type of weapons?
No.
What type of attachments will and can be used on these drones, on the proposed drones?
So the three attachments, the camera is a given. It comes on it. Then they have the speaker, to where if we have to get messaging out, we can. We have the spotlight, that would be more of a search and rescue, especially things along the river, if we needed an event like that. There are other, like there's a device that we can put on it to have two different cellular carriers. We can have both T-Mobile and Verizon, so that we have that dual support. And then the one other device that they do have is a dropper, that to where you would be able to drop a life raft, a very small life raft that inflates into the river. But we don't anticipate having those.
Okay. In the meeting I had with members of the community on yesterday, Eye on Surveillance, I want to thank them for expressing their concerns. They had some very legitimate questions that I think should be asked and answered. What is your policy as it relates to sharing video footage or cameras or still images with other agencies, mainly ICE?
So actually, the beginning of our policy addresses that. We do not use UAS to support any agency that we do not already,
Can you explain what UAS?
I'm sorry, on unmanned aircraft. So drones. Our policy does not allow the use of drones to assist any agency that we already don't have a CEA or an MOU with.
Okay. Just to clarify, you haven't or have no intentions or don't even have the ability to share footage or work in tandem with any agencies, again, mainly ICE.
No, it's actually, it's paragraph 3 under the policy.
All right. Can you walk us through a hypothetical in which a drone may be used?
So yes, there's multi-purposes. The French Quarter is a little different than most. Obviously, everyone is aware of the attack that took place on January 1st, 2025. So one of the things that I do use them for during special events is to be able to check and make sure that our perimeters are secure. I want to know on a regular basis, are my barriers where they're supposed to be? Is everything up and in place? Is my personnel on scene not allowing any type of vehicular traffic to get to Bourbon Street? I also want to know, is my perimeter clear? So when we seal that off, I want to be able to look and check that there are no vehicles within the perimeter. And being able to do that on a regular basis, it not only gives me a level of comfort because I am able to see it myself, but I'm able to see it myself over and over throughout the time. It also provides us with time-stamped video of those things being in place.
All right, one last question, and it came out of our meeting with ION Surveillance. I want to thank them again for their comments and input. When you in the report you mentioned, or reports mentioned subjects moved or persons moved, and it was over 1,000 calls for that last year. What exactly does that mean?
So I believe what's being referred to there is a report that is done by the Supplemental Police Patrol. One of the issues that we face downtown is unhoused and homeless individuals. So one thing that we do report on is the number of times that we've engaged an individual and asked them to move on. Asked them if they wanted to go to shelter, but they can't stay blocking up the sidewalk or where they're at. So that number of people, that's not, so let's just say the number's 500 for the month. That doesn't mean there's 500 people we interacted with. That means there were 500 times where an officer interacted with an individual under those circumstances. And although it may seem like a call for service, typically what that is it's a self-initiated call. But when it's put into the app, it gets brought up statistically as one of the calls that they went to.
All right, thank you. So what we're going to do is have open the floor for public comment. And keep in mind, we have a 12:50 hard stop, so we're going to try to get as much as we can in these next 10 minutes. So first, we have Mr. Reggie Ford. I ask that everyone give their name, address, and are you a paid actor?
I'm not a paid actor. Reggie Ford, 3907 St. Claude. I'm in full support of the drones being deployed in the French Quarter for a multitude of reasons. And this from personal experience. I've been in the French Quarter since 1988, 8 years old. A resident, a owner of a gallery for 15 years. I currently work on Jackson Square. Been out there 20. It's my day-to-day life, 7 days a week. I could go over a list of reasons why they're needed, but I'll address the above view camera. When the drone flying over the French Quarters, you barely can identify people. We see the footage day to day. I've been looking at 4K drone footage for over 20 years on YouTube, just trying to collect it for different highlight videos. You can't identify nobody within courtyards. You could go see it for yourself if that's a concern, but I'll get to the good uses for the drones. For traffic, when they got traffic jams, they can help resolve that easily. For other reasons, when people jump in a river sometime, you could track them through the river into the Cajun Navy come, or other rescue boats could come. And the drone could even deploy a rescue raft or anything like that. I've been there for suicides and for looking for bodies. At least 7 people jumping in off the bridge or off the side barrier. Another reason it could be used. One time a police was trying to apprehend a guy. Officer DeFillo, this was years ago. He broke free. He ran from Jackson Square all the way over the floodgate to the levee, and then me and him ended up on a levee together. I didn't have a police to help me. I didn't have an address to identify where I was, just me and a guy. At least with a drone, they have an eye in the sky to help get me help. A lot of people gonna speak, but they're not gonna speak from experience of being in the French Quarters day to day. I can do that, and I've been there with those people needing help, and a drone would definitely help, send help in. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Cameron Pipes?
Hello, my name is Cameron Pipes. I live at 1710 North Robinson Street. I am not a paid actor. I also work and spend a lot of time in the French Quarter. I do not believe that we need drone surveillance in the French Quarter. The French Quarter is already highly surveilled. Yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Glade Bilby?
Thanks very much. My name's Glade Bilby. I live at Esplanade and Charters, and I come at this discussion with a couple of different hats on. I'm a longtime resident of the French Quarter, and in the past 10 years, I've seen the number of tourists go from 8 or 9 million to now 19 plus million. At the same time, I've seen the number of police go from over 1,200 to somewhere around 900. So this disparity creates a giant problem for safety, public safety, for the amount of people that are here. Years ago, because of this issue, a number of businesses and residents got together to self-impose a tax in the quarter for the quarter, which is the supplemental police patrol. And I know that you have had a lot of support for this. The residents are in favor of the supplemental police patrol. It's done a great job, that and the French Quarter Task Force app. And I think that's why the NOPD and the 8th District asked us to support this technology upgrade for the one drone in the French Quarter. Wearing my Commissioner of French Quarter Management District hat, we decided that this would be a good thing to address because it's within our mandate. We have very open meetings. They're open to the public. We've had 4 meetings about this issue. And I think that because of the disparity of numbers and the way that we need something, drones will bring situational awareness to what happens in the quarter. No, a drone will not stop a murder. A drone will not stop a robbery or fire, but what it will do is allow whatever responding entity is to go to that location with the appropriate assets. And as we see now, with 900 to 1 million people, 900,000 to 1 million people on our riverfront, this is going to be a real issue. So this is not about surveillance. It's about safety for the residents and visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. Jess Pinkham? Jess Pinkham?
I'm Jess Pinkham. I live on Ursulines in Bourbon. Am I allowed to reference that comment about the French Quarter Management District? Because I was at the last meeting, and I know from city council members that the FQMD is reporting that there was no opposition, which isn't true. I was there. I'm vehemently opposed to this. I live on the 3rd floor. Part of what drew me to living above street level was that people cannot look in my windows whenever they want. Drones are incredibly noisy. I personally find the sound of them actively pretty traumatizing. I was a high school student in Manhattan on September 11th. I watched the World Trade Center fall. I lived through the militarization of Manhattan afterwards. It didn't accomplish anything except traumatizing people. I agree about, foot patrol could be good. I personally am friends with my neighbors, and that makes me feel extremely safe. I have quartermaster on the corner. which is open 24 hours a day. And I know that if anything happened to me, they would intervene. I also want to thank Councilman Willard. I met with your chief of staff, who was fabulous. I appreciate the questions y'all are asking. And I just want to say that during business hours, there's so many people in the quarter who can't show up to this. But every single neighbor I've spoken to is like totally on every level against this. They're war weapons and they're racist technology. And if you look that up, you know that. Thank you.
Mr. Will Dubose?
Thank you. My name is Will Dubose, live at 7315 Onyx Street. I am paid to be here. I'm a lobbyist by trade. So, good afternoon, Councilman King and friends on the council. My name is Will Dubose. I serve as Director of Government Affairs for the Louisiana Restaurant Association. I'm here today representing French Quarter LRA members in strong support of the proposal to implement DFR technology in the French Quarter. At its core, this is about sending a message to residents, to the thousands of employees who work in the quarter every day, to our local businesses invested in the neighborhood, and to the millions of visitors who come here each year that their security is our top priority. The French Quarter is the economic and cultural heartbeat of our city and state. When people feel safe, our businesses thrive. When they don't, we all feel the impact. This proposal gives NOPD an opportunity to utilize proactive, forward-thinking technology that enhances real-time awareness and allows law enforcement to respond more quickly and effectively. As an appointing authority to the French Quarter Management District Board, the LRA supports the use of district funds for this initiative because we believe it is a smart, targeted investment in the future and security of the quarter. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
All right. And we're going to have one more comment, then go to the vote. Mr. Chris Lane. I'm sorry, after Mr. Lane, we're going to have Councilman Morrell and Green, then the vote. So you're up, Mr. Lane, you're up.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Lang. I live at 2500 Dauphine Street. This whole process feels very undemocratic to me. I sat in the French Quarter meeting district, and there was over 20 people against this, and there was maybe a handful, 3, who were for it. And then the person who was the chair of that basically added 19 more people to support it who had personally called her. And that's not even part of the public comment record. The fact that you're limiting the comments for 10 minutes when this is obviously a larger conversation is a part of the lack of democratic transparency and process here that we've been advocating for on multiple levels of city governance. As folks have mentioned, the French Quarter is highly surveilled as is. We don't need another drone under the pretense of cost savings to be able to do what we should be providing for residents through proactive deterrence of crime, which is more education, more investments in food and housing and other things, not punitive surveillance technologies that will, in the right timing, be rolled out for other measures. And the fact that he mentioned that there's zero threshold on how low these drones can go shows that they can go to a maximum height, but they can go as low as they want. The French Quarter has narrow corridors, which means that you can't see everything. There are trees, there are other ways in which you can't see them, so those will be going down, invading people's public privacy, recording the entire time, and it's just a total breach of our privacy. I bike through the quarter a lot. I'm already uncomfortable going through there. I don't want to see more technology going into different CEOs for them to be able to use this technology and pocket the money and be able to basically increase the surveillance of the city is, for me, disgusting. But the fact that we've restricted this to only 10 minutes to be able to have public comment is also a part of just a huge, it's just a disgusting abuse of power. And I would rather see this be a 30-minute conversation or an hour-long conversation. Thank you.
Before I turn the mic over to Councilmember Green, then Morrell, I just want to respond to Mr. Lane's comment. Mr. Lane, these meetings are held quarterly before the council meetings. The last meeting was supposed to be held on April 9th, last week. It's going to only last 30 minutes. It usually lasts between 20 and 30 minutes in time for the next council meeting, which starts at 10. Out of respect to the community and make sure that everyone gets a chance to be heard as much as possible and to have a lengthy conversation, a lengthy presentation by the presenters, I asked Council President that this be moved to a separate meeting to give us more time to have more dialogue. Unfortunately, we have a meeting that's already scheduled at 1 o'clock. So I understand your concerns and comments, but we did move it to have as robust of a conversation as possible. Councilmember Green, then Morrell.
And Councilman King, I'd like to add that we've received your correspondence. I've received 100 letters in our inbox, so we've heard the concerns, and of course, we want the public to know those concerns too, and the public is welcome to have access to the emails that I've received. I, interestingly enough, want to thank those who are concerned with civil liberties and to make sure that our citizens are treated fairly, that investigations are conducted in a constitutional manner. Your work is certainly recognized and appreciated. But I also want to thank the members of the New Orleans Police Department. I've received emails saying no new drones in New Orleans, but yet the police department has been operating drones throughout our city for 2 years without, very honestly, without any concerns. And I've seen the video footage. I saw a video footage recently of a drone arrest, an arrest that took place of a second-degree murder, alleged second-degree murderer, and it was strictly based on drone footage. The drone footage allowed the officers who were to make the arrest to be alerted to the location of the suspect, and so that they could make sure that the people around them were safe and they could approach the suspect in the right way, and that arrest was made. I think that sometimes, and I understand, and I'm appreciative to the city council, but I think that sometimes we also don't look at the successes. We talk about the negatives of facial recognition, and I recognize that. This is the same facial recognition that resulted in the arrest of a violent criminal in the French Quarter following the breakout, also resulted in the arrest of the Bywater arsonist who was going down the street. We don't know where he was going to go next, but it was facial recognition that was used to make that arrest. I understand the concerns relative to facial recognition, but this council and the community has put in place many measures of oversight that allow the public and allow us to question anything that goes on within the New Orleans Police Department. So I think that we also need to recognize the successes, and also those successes include those who are concerned about civil liberties, making sure that we have independent police monitors at work, that we follow constitutional guidelines, that we haven't given up the goals of the consent decree, and that we continue to have the oversight that is necessary. But we must, I gave you the time, I understand. At the end of the day, this is insane. That doesn't really get us to any conclusions. Okay, this is insane is not something that I listen to and think that makes us move forward. And you're being rude. Everyone had a chance to talk. At the end of the day, I want to thank the members of the New Orleans Police Department. There's been 2 years plus of oversight plus a consent decree. There have been very few complaints registered with the independent police monitor, and I thank you for the work. At the end of the day, wherever this vote goes, there will be oversight on the part of a city council that is very concerned about civil liberties. But let us make sure that we do not throw many times out the accusations that the police aren't going to do the right things, and don't pay attention to the fact that many arrests take place and our streets are safer in part because of the use of surveillance. Thank you.
Councilman Morrell.
I'm going to be exceedingly brief. This council is not a monolith. There is a tremendous amount of information that's come out both today and before this meeting, and I want to say that the fact that we have such divergent perspectives on a variety of issues is a strength, not a weakness. So I do not think, as we make our votes today, the votes will be all over the place. But I think that's something that's important because we are listening to what you guys are saying. What I will say is two things. One, since Councilman Green brought up, this has nothing to do with facial recognition. I don't support facial recognition. I don't appreciate lumping the two together because this council has repeatedly, many of us, expressed concerns with facial recognition. Second, I apologize for the truncated time for this discussion. I will meet with Councilmember King and my colleagues to see if we can allocate more time for issues like this and schedule better. That is on us. That is something we'll work on in the future. Thank you.
All right. Make a motion. Can I get a second? No second? Vote your machines, please. Four yeas, no nays. All right, we're going to go to item number 3, please. Item number 3, Madam Clerk. Number 3. Item number 3, Madam Clerk.
All right, you go, vote to adjourn.
Item number 3.
We read it in. That's what
Read it
you
in?
just voted on.
All right, thank you.
We could vote to adjourn.
Vote to- Motion to adjourn. We need some more votes to adjourn. We need some more votes to adjourn. Well, Councilman McCarron, all right, thank you. Meeting's adjourned.